Good afternoon, everyone. Everyone from the Bank of International Settlements down to your local bank says persistent higher growth in consumer prices, meaning you're going to pay more for everything. Lowe's putting electronic labels on the shelves so they can change prices in real time. U.S. inflation, subtract $5,000 out of your pocket. A gallon of gas, other countries compared to ours. Eggflation, red line, eggs cost more. Looking at something called a stock out where London Metals Exchange is going to run out of metals for delivery. The EU talking about banning Bitcoin, but Exxon is now going to mine Bitcoin. And as fiat's collapse, the entire world's moving to a central bank digital currency, e-cash, programmable money. No more wheat reserves in Lebanon. Finally, Sri Lanka gets some rice to alleviate their food shortages, 11 million tons. ENLIL spiral. Density off the chart of this CME arriving tonight. There shall be signs in the skies. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Get any yield you can. Plant immediately. Are sanctions and a weaponized U.S. dollar prompting central banks to diversify with gold? As the U.S. imposed the harshest sanctions in history against Putin, the central banks of Saudi Arabia and China have taken notice. Saudi Arabia is considering accepting Chinese yuan for oil sales to China. Could this spell the end of the U.S. dollar as a global reserve currency? Because since March 2020, gold's up 30%, silver's doubled. Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo all forecast gold to surpass $2,000 an ounce. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. Patriot Gold Group has the No Fee for Life IRA, where your IRA or 401k can be in physical gold and silver, and you may be eligible for the No Fee for Life IRA on qualifying rollovers. Call 1-800-356-4470 for a free investor guide today. And with the knowledge that Patriot Gold Group is Consumer Affairs' top-rated gold IRA dealer from 2016 to present, click on the link in the description box below for more information. And now on with the video. Hey, and the most important story here, the ENLIL spiral. That black that you're seeing is literally off the chart for the plasma density. That's going to be hitting tonight. So 3 a.m. Universal Time is 11 p.m. here in the States. That's going to be the onset, and it should roll through 7 a.m. or so Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. Going to see some very low latitude auroras out of this one here. Rumors of electrical disruptions as well in some of the power grids. So if you're feeling strange, this is the reason. There's going to be an extra amplified flow of energy coming across our planet for the next 24 hours. Now, to frame the video here, 80% of all US dollars in existence have been printed in just the last 2 years. And you think, well, what does that mean? Well, here's the chart for you. Slowly, slowly, and then vertical. So what does that mean? Well, it's all about the ability for you to buy food, continue to pay your mortgage or your rent, and how you're going to be able to afford things moving forward. This is the knowledge to understand how to survive this change that is inbound. It is occurring everywhere, and when you start to put all the dots together, it's not beginning, it has already begun, past tense. It's going to amplify through the next few months. And in May, right at the end of May, here's what you're going to look for, is the realization that farmers are not planting corn across the planet because the herbicide and the fertilizer shortages are restricting the amount of corn that can be planted this year. Now, when that starts to hit the headlines, you're going to look at the bevy of items that corn requires, including animal feed for dairy and feeder cattle, the pigs, chickens, turkey, ethanol, and anything that you're seeing across grocery store shelves mainly has some corn or byproduct of corn in it. The shortages are going to be vast, and this is going to be the first domino that will fall. And when you start to see this, the prices are going to exponentially rise. There's going to be a lot of unavailability of products on the shelves, And I just don't understand why Biden's moving to a 20% ethanol inclusion into our gasoline, which is going to destroy engines. But at the same time, where's the corn going to come from? So here's how you connect two dots together. 80% of all US dollars that existed were printed in the last 22 months. Oh, record inflation in the United States and globally. 1 equals 1 on that one. Looking at the wood cost to build a deck right here. This is an interesting factoid for you to toss around dinner conversation at Easter. April 2020, $936. Just a year later, $3,600. Now it's come down a little bit, but it's going to bounce off that and head even higher again. And when you have the White House come out and called it extraordinarily elevated inflation, I'm going to ask, what happened to the transitory jargon that you were using a few months back? I guess we were distracted. What do you think? And the U.S. inflation is going to pull an extra $5,200 out of your pocket to equal the exact same stuff. It's just about the numbers are getting so high now. Rocketing inflation is what they call it. That whatever you buy is going to cost more, and it's just nickels here, dimes there, $10, $100, $1,000 there, $5,000 out of your pocket to buy the exact same amount of stuff. If you can't see we're stepping into the hyperinflationary beginnings, I would plead with you, please look back through history and see how these things have onset and the opportunities to take advantage when it gets into that first step of hyperinflation to exit off of precious metals and get out, take that fiat, pay off your house, pay off all your debt, and then start to accrue during this time as things hyperinflate away. This is just a repeating chapter of history. How many times have we seen hyperinflation? We always see the broke billionaire or trillionaire, and in Zimbabwe, well, we could almost reverse and have these same signs in the United States in about 9 months from now. Because jumping to the Bank of International Settlements here, we're on the brink of a new inflationary era, persistent higher growth in consumer prices. That means you're going to pay more for everything indefinitely through the hyperinflation event, starting now. And a trend for manufacturers to cut back extensive global supply chains means everything is going to disappear off the shelves that comes from different countries, so expect mass shortages and massive price increases at the same time. That's what that means in simple English. Now over to Lowe's. This is out of the Journal of Quebec. And this is a continuation of the electronic labels that appeared on the shelves at the very end of last year. But now, isn't that prophetic that they're looking at being able to change prices in real time across all products in the store in a single press of a button on an algorithm? Nobody to go physically change the labels and prices. They're going to do it electronically. You walk in. You could even be shopping in the store and 5 minutes later the price has changed when you came back. And even Lowe's admitting now customers will not escape price increases. And that's everybody across every commodity and everything that we buy anywhere. If you buy anything, you're not going to escape the price increase. Welcome to hyperinflation. It's double digits and triple digits right now. But when it comes into quadruple digits, hopefully people will wake up at that point that fiat currencies across the globe are in collapse. Commodities to equity ratio versus inflation. Now we have to go all the way back to the 1970s to see anything this vertical, this fast. And sure enough, yellow line follows white line. Yellow line is the Commodities Index that takes into account manufacturers, miners, and commodities suppliers and how much those things cost to get into a factory and get you your goods. Animal, vegetable, mineral, whatever way you look at it, it's going to increase in price. If it follows anything like the 1970s, we'll have to wait for the CPI numbers to peak. Then the commodity index behind that should peak, and we'll get that double peak overlapping. But that's a ways away looking at this chart, maybe into 2024, based on past historical cycles. So look at this. This is from 1936, July 9th, Thursday, West Toronto Weekly newspaper. A house for sale, $6,950. Oh, you could get a house for $2,450. Then if we look at the price of glasses, how much is the price of glasses these days? $6.50? I don't think so. And at the Miracle Marqueteria, look at the lamb, beef, and veal prices on the right. Briskets, 7 cents a pound. Veal cutlets, 25 cents a pound. And look at the coffee, 35 cents a pound. Tomatoes, 2 cans for 17 cents. So you might look at that and go, well, that was way back in the 1930s. Things just cost less then. Yes and no. They cost less then because the money had more value in it, so you could buy more with the same dollar. Take a look now and see how much value in purchasing has been eroded away from that same $1. Because going back to the establishment of the Federal Reserve, 1913, I mean, if you jump into these prices here in the 1930s, that was only 20 years away, and there'd already been erosion of purchasing power at that time too. I'd really like to look at a newspaper from 1915 or even 1913 to see the prices before the dollar started to have the inflation taken out at a couple percent a year. In the beginning, it wasn't so exaggerated because it was a new thing and people were more clued into it. It had just established, but people had been alive and understood the monetary system at that point. So they had to wait for those people to pass away, bring in the next generation, the world wars, and now where do we sit? Oh, things just getting more expensive. Yeah, because of inflation and depleting of our money's value, deteriorating by theft. I'm going to call it what it is. Hidden stealth taxes to erode your purchasing power. So this should be in truly black and white here, what has been taken from us as a society in terms of our labor and what we can purchase with those dollars after we're paid. Jumping over to a gallon of gas. Now this is at the end of March, so it is a little dated. So Brazil, $5.57, Japan, $5.50. That's approximately what our diesel prices are in the U.S., about $5.50 right now. Israel, $8.50. Italy, $8.70. UK, $8.40. But look at that, Hong Kong, $10.90, almost $11. That's why people use public transport there. Now jumping over to Eggflation. This is something that we all use. And every product you have somewhere has an egg included in it, I'm sure. I would say 90% of the supermarket products that you have had an egg in there somewhere in the manufacturing process. So the cause is bird flu spreading across the U.S., egg prices soaring. So you're following the red line. And nobody knows where it's going to stop. Above $4 are some of the predictions. But this is on the wholesale level, not you at the supermarket buying it. Wholesale level. Above $4. That's going to bring your eggs to $6, $7 a dozen in the supermarket. So as we wide the chart out here, I'd like you to jump over to May and June in front of the red line. So when you see that it costs 80 cents for a dozen on the wholesale level, do you remember what you were paying for eggs about a year or 2 years ago? Still up around, $2.50 to $3 a dozen, but still the wholesale pricing is at 80 cents a dozen. So you see that markup in there from the delivery point and then the supermarkets taking their cut. So when you see the red line spiking that high, because even if wholesale is at 80 cents and you're still at $2.50 or $3, that's like a 3x increase. So if it's running to $4, and even if we're doubling, you're looking at $8 a dozen of eggs. Are you ready for that? Well, most people aren't. But those that grow and raise chickens are going to have a new cash cow, no pun intended. Avian influenza. So when you're looking at the commercial and backyard flocks that are affected, they had to cull most birds in these areas. So the states in blue had the highest cull for the flocks. Iowa seems to be taking the lead there, along with, looks like, Maryland, Delaware. So the regional distribution in these areas from Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Missouri, outbound, anybody getting supply from there shall see the price rises first. Now down here in the southeast U.S., there's an enormous amount of chicken in Georgia, so that's our outbound point here in the southeast U.S. A little bit different of where regions will be affected by prices in eggs moving forward. Now, wherever you look, there's going to be a problem with supply chain and bottlenecks of any materials used in manufacturing. That's what I'm saying. There's going to be a lot of things that disappear out of stores and Home Depots and all those things that we need to get ready for these changes. So it's called a stock out, meaning the stock has run out when people want physical delivery. Now, this is on the London Metals Exchange, base metals. I mean, you can lump gold and silver in here too. Zinc, lead, nickel, tin. So there's a zinc run on at the moment, and also nickel was suspended in trading, and we saw that whole chapter about 2.5 weeks ago. So zinc's next on the block here. Trafigura is taking physical delivery, but they don't have enough zinc to supply what their demand was on their contract, so that's already gone pretty much to zero. But when you see this running down to levels in the 1990s again, and below that now, at what point did the markets become non-functional? Because why would you buy something on paper as a manufacturer to guarantee delivery at a certain price when you can't get the metal that you need for your manufacturing? The whole point of the LME and the COMEX is, it's a big gambling casino, I understand that, but real manufacturers do take delivery, and a lot of mints also take delivery of 1,000-ounce silver bars, gold, etc., but that is also running thin. So again, you got to think about the mechanisms here to keep manufacturing moving forward. If these can't deliver any longer, then there's no reason that they should exist. And this would be some of the very base pillars of keeping the fiat money system together, the assurance of gold, silver, and industrial metals for manufacturing. Once that stops, then our world literally stops and the financial system crumbles. And if we look at the demand for silver physical, get it in your hand, the buy price versus the spot price, at least in Germany, and this is in euros, not dollars. So the euro is a little bit stronger than the dollar. So we're looking at 21 euro on the spot price, but then even to get it in your hand, you're going to have to pay 29 euro. There's an 8 euro premium. So the demand is so high right now that people are willing to pay 8 euro over what it costs just to get it in the hand. And as we look at reserve currencies across the planet, you can see that none of them really last. And I think the US dollar is also going to end at this point. And we're going to head into hyperinflation. The global economy is going to contract greatly. And as I spoke about, when the Federal Reserve was started in 1913, this is the gold standard. Those are silver bars, actually, not gold bars. But the gold standard peaked before World War I, which adds credence to right when they started the Federal Reserve. They already were moving away into money that could be manipulated, and inflation put into that to steal the value out of the currency itself, what it could purchase. And if your current system is going to fail, and you know in advance it would fail, this fiat money system, then you would start to put a replacement in place. Here we go. Controllers at the Treasury talking about US eCash, otherwise known as programmable money / central bank digital currency. And then the US lawmakers are kicking around new ideas for the Treasury issuance, eCash. Don't be confused. eCash is central bank digital currency issuance. Lexicon might change, but it's the same animal in disguise. And then Vietnam ordering banks to create a legal framework for Bitcoin and crypto, and again, CBDCs. So when I look over here and see Exxon taking on Bitcoin mining because they're flaring gas, they can use that to create electricity. So their byproduct that they would burn in the air anyway is now going to be rerouted to create electricity to mine Bitcoin. Might make you think just for a second here, because we keep seeing Bitcoin is successful only because of its potential to circumvent, fill in the blank there. It seems to me it ought to be outlawed. See, we have a lot of people on the other side say, outlaw crypto, but wait a second, Exxon's going to be mining Bitcoin. They're not going to put the investment in. They all know something. You're looking at a stage show here. Strong data governance. So this is the Bank for International Settlements. Remember that slide talking about indefinite inflation, working through with the central banks to put in central bank digital currencies. And again, the bracketed paragraph points number 1 here. Central banks around the world are working to safeguard public trust in money and payments during this period of upheaval. Wait a minute. I thought you said everything's going back to normal, but here we have documents from the Bank of International Settlements say a period of upheaval. that it's not going back. It's going to be upheaval. That's a very strong word to use. So we already know that the system is built to collapse at this point. It seems to be purposeful that there's knowing and workings to collapse and restructure the replacement for it. So the CBDCs, or the central bank digital currencies, represent a unique opportunity, design technological advances for central bank money. And I love it. If you go down to the next highlighted area there, privacy standards based on digital IDs / digital rationing cards / access to your money so you don't starve. It's inbound. To realize the full potential of CBDCs for more efficient cross-border payments, international collaboration will be paramount. And the last sentence here, we're going to translate this into English, because cooperation on CBDC designs will also open up new ways for central banks to counter, quote unquote, foreign currency substitutions. That means other cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and strengthen monetary sovereignty. Again, taking full control over the global money supply with no possible competitors. Now, as I've been told, Ripple XRP will be that substitute, that bridge between this collapse period and the movement into CBDCs. See, the way that Ripple was designed using RippleNet was to have on-demand liquidity, which means that there would be no problems for any bank anywhere involved in this system to fall short on the funds they would need, because they could draw from that at any time needed. Now, right now, it's something called the repo market, where you're going to search the planet for banks that would bring into your risk category and allow you to use that money. And if banks don't trust banks, that whole system locks up. Well, with this new step with XRP, that is going to alleviate that completely. You probably won't see another one of those events for decades, plural, as we move into this transition phase using Ripple and its ledger settlement. Well, the banks do that every day. They clear their ledgers. Well, with XRP, you can clear it in as fast as a minute. So it's really going to be up to date, and the clearing mechanisms are going to be 24 times faster if you do it on an hourly basis. But think about that. If you're clearing every minute and you're balancing by the minute compared to at the end of a business day, that's hugely different. That's almost real time. So the settlement and the demand to liquidity will be this bridge, because this is going to collapse the fiat system, but they need something to move in until the new pillars of the economy are reestablished. It's going to be what? Gold, silver, central bank digital currencies, carbon credit market, and then digitization of forests and different types of, say, mineral assets that have a value to them that they can lock for a certain period of time. That will be the new stable base. So if I have, 10,000 acres of a forest, I can use LiDAR and then see an average density of tree species in there, and then you know how much each tree species will sequester CO2 out of the environment on a yearly basis. And then you can work the math on that, and you can say this 10,000 acres will sequester this amount of CO2 in a 1-year period. And then once you use the carbon credits, which are currently between $8 and $16, depending on where you buy them on the planet, there's a huge arbitrage opportunity there. But there's slated to go to 200 max on the pegged value. So, let's say there's 5,000 of those carbon credits associated with the 10,000 acres. That's a new value. Now, the only problem is you can't let any humans in there at all to even disturb one blade of grass or even one tree in that area. Because once even one tree is logged out of there, the entire value of it has to be reevaluated, and the value collapses at that point of that asset locked. And this would be the same with anything. They're talking about digitizing fisheries in the ocean, meaning that there shall be no humans allowed to fish in these certain areas, because they have set aside a value on the sea life and the seafood in that ocean area. So when I saw these red and yellow maps years ago saying, there'll be these non-human habitation zones, and I was like, how are they going to get everybody off? That's ridiculous. Half the United States is going to be a no-go zone for any humans. When I'm starting to see how this is going to play out, where, if they're going to reestablish on the carbon credit system and the carbon credits themselves, humans got to go. And you can see why everything is in this slow, purposeful collapse. It's very calculated to create the most damage and remove the most people off their land and out of their homes to get these same zones set up. So you can see how this is working in tandem, step by step. And at the end of it, once you start to see they're digitizing forests and putting them onto an allocated carbon credit trading system, it's in play, a real-time play here. And of course, you're going to get your carbon allocation credits on a personal level. And if you exceed those, you're going to have to go on the market and buy more so you can purchase the item. Because see, they're also looking deeply into how much does it take to manufacture an iPhone, from the transportation to the mining, the smelting, the refining, the factory, and everything in between. There's going to be a carbon allocation on that iPhone. Maybe it's 10 units, 10 carbon credits to get the iPhone, but you only have, say, 8. And you can't buy the phone then. You're going to have to go on the open market and then purchase 2 more to add to your balance of carbon credits so you'll even be allowed to buy the thing. That's not including the money. That's just your carbon allocation to be able to buy it on the carbon footprint. Then you're going to have to come up with the money for that on top of it. So see, I really doubt that it's going to be very high on the carbon allocation credits for the individuals. You probably get like 2 a month, and you're going to probably need 10 just to even eat. So you'll have to spend more money to go out and get the carbon credits, so then you can even purchase your food. Because how much will meat be? Oh, the cow, the cows, it's 27 carbon credits, so you can buy a steak. Well, I only have 15. Okay, I need to go buy the others. And this is how the whole carbon credit market's going to work. It's going to be a new pillar of the economy, written in stone. So you can see this transition is going to incorporate an enormous amount of interplays of things that we thought were, And if you think I'm kidding, here we go. France, macaroni is considering food vouchers for the middle and low-income households as prices rise. See, food is going to get so expensive and unavailable that people are going to riot in the streets. So the first foray into your digital rationing card and digital ID and central bank digital issuance and your carbon allocated credits is going to be all on the same digital ID system. So here it is, being rolled out in France. Give the people enough food so they don't riot. Lebanon has no more wheat reserves at all. They're still looking for alternative sources other than Ukraine. And the last shipment they received apparently was full of moisture, thus lost, meaning non-usable. I wonder what they could do with that. Wheatgrass? Not sure. But then we look over Tunisia suspending vegetable exports to cut local prices. Protectionist policies. Oh yeah, food protectionism is going to be a thing this year. And also, top left, deglobalization trend. You see that, like I say, it's carefully calculated on how to destroy the current financial system. China's top offshore oil and gas producer, CNOOC, is preparing to exit operations in Britain, Canada, and US. You know why? Because their assets could be subject to Western sanctions. So they're like, we're out of here. We're taking all our money. You can't lock it up like you did with the Russian stuff. And then at the same time, Amazon's going to start charging a 5% fuel surcharge. You knew that was going to happen. Can't deliver anymore. And if you look at some of the periphery countries that don't have such large, strong economies, and they're not major food producers themselves, they rely a lot on imports. Sri Lanka, suspending external debt payments because they need money for essentials like fertilizer and food so their people don't riot. Oh wait, it's too late for that. So somehow they secured a $1 billion line of credit from India, which supplied 16,000 metric tons, and apparently another 11,000 metric ton inbound on that. But that's just rice. And again, if those people are growing their own food, they could grow their own vegetables. It would be lean on the eating, but still they would stay alive, would they not? And signs in the skies here, we know we're into changing times, but this display of plasmas, and how would you describe this as a petroglyph on a canyon wall? There's many, many of these central figure eights that are similar to this all over the planet. Maybe this is what it is back in the skies. But whatever you're doing please don't give up hope. Start where you are. Use what you have. Do what you can. Any yield is positive yield. I mean, you don't have to go off to Lowe's and buy buckets. I mean, this is available anywhere. People give this stuff away for free. Drill a few holes in the bottom for drainage, and there you go. You have your own grow bag or grow bucket. And at the same time, when we're thinking about things in history that had incredible value, salt. So if the centralized systems for delivery collapse, then what? How do you even get salt? See, this is the main thing. So do you know any salt pans or salt drying areas, salt veins where you live? Or have you bought a couple 100 pounds of salt yet? Because you're probably going to need that, and different kinds of salt, from the Himalayan salt, the sea salt, and then you're going to need some iodized salt occasionally, and I'm saying very occasionally, to keep the iodine in your body up. And join me every Thursday night along with Ransom Godwin, 10 p.m. to midnight, Rumble live stream right off of Revolution.radio, talking about some of these same issues, but 2 hours at a time, where we reference the problem and also provide solutions. Things that you might not see in the daily news, we try to compile and put different dots together so you can have a discussion with friends and family, bring them into the fold, and also include fact and links in that, so you can get an idea of what's going on the food front, the economic front, supply chains, and historical cycles and things that we see in history overlapping. But one thing for sure that overlaps is we're going to need food, all of us. 25-year shelf life storable foods, my Patriot supply with ODAP 2030. That link's in the description box below, along with all of the links to tonight's stories, images. I do thank you for watching. Hope you got something out of the video, and I will see you next time.